a world where we get so caught up in the day-to-day, just keeping your head down and how we can survive. We float by each other like ghosts every day, ignorant to the struggle, the fight with one another. Replace them with the fact that our systems are broken, with the fact that the top 10 will always be first in line, the fact that we are killing our planet and allowing them to keep us divided. We must stand together and rise up. It's time we wake up, and that is a difficult truth.
Welcome to the Wednesday. It is definitely Wednesday. Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday morning. We've got quite the amount of controversy this morning. Yes, that's right. Hey, big dangly things, how's it going? That's right. I've been lurking in Dr. Humpday's morning stream, and I heard some very disturbing stuff. Just unbelievable stuff. Such as nuggies are trash. What type of reactionary take is that? Okay, they don't even have to be chicken nuggies, as I've discovered thanks to Darknet. We've got vegan chicken nuggies that are absolutely tasty, and they're absolutely tasty. So I reject this assertion by Dr. Humpday, and you can quote me on that. Hey Kyle. Wait, am I hearing nuggies are trash? My whole life is a lie. Nuggies are not trash, okay? Nuggies are good. Nuggies are life. There are different types of nuggies. I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed in the reactionary takes that I keep hearing in Heem's stream. Very disappointing. If you want some premium vegan chicken nuggies, go to any store that has these. The brand that I eat is Raised and Rooted plant-based nuggies. They are absolutely delicious. No one can change my mind on that one. I'm so disappointed that these trash takes are being voiced. Nuggies are the best. True. Yeah, I'm very disappointed. I don't know if I can responsibly platform Dr. Humpday anymore. There's just that was a bridge too far. I'm telling you, the state of Twitch politics nowadays is just unbelievable, where people are unironically attempting to argue that nuggies are trash. The state of political discourse in 2021, I told you. I'm telling you. I don't know him, but now I'm glad. Now we're gonna have to hear about chicken nugget discourse for the next week and a half. Alright, folks, I'm gonna have to, there is a lot to go through, so I'm gonna have to, like, speedrun this. So let me go ahead and get started. Oh shoot, hold on, folks. Hold on. I need to get my cat down. Hold on. Come on, kitty. Hey Kevin, how's it going? How's it going? I made a streamer very mad. I said, I said in her chat that sex work should be legal and organized to be safe, and she defeated and started screaming. Wait, what? Jeez. I mean, I know, like, people, people get upset about certain positions, but man, I mean, you're kind of a public figure, right? If you're doing streams, if you're doing live streams, I mean, you're kind of a public figure and people are going to disagree with you, right? Just saying. Hey, Spread It Forward, how's it going? They had 25 viewers and they ruined everything. Well, that's the thing though, like, somebody, like, just one person really that disagrees with you is really gonna be the end of the stream. I don't know. Hey, Chap, how's it going? Fitcharum, there are no links, so if you want to whisper me that, that would be fine. Are you a lefty? I don't know. I mean, like, I can write with both hands, actually. I'm pretty good at writing with both hands. I'm sure you heard of the 2666 not joking laws, new laws that go into effect today. Yes, we are going to be talking about that. Well, I know one. I know one for sure. I know one for sure. Hey, watch my 666. Thank you for the follow, offline follow. I appreciate that. Leftist, I should say. I believe that my political points should speak for themselves. I think that my positions should speak for themselves. I advocate for things like universal healthcare. I advocate things for an expansion or addition of public housing to make sure that people get food, housing, education, and healthcare. I think that in this country, there should be no such thing as homelessness. And it's a wild thought to me. Interesting that folks want a license to vote but not carry a gun. Interesting. Banning portals to hell or just decriminalizing? Weird that we should care about fellow humans. Now that's a thought. Weird, isn't it? Yeah, I'm gonna start. I'm sorry, Kal. I think we're taking in too much logic, so we're gonna have to ask you to tone it down. Okay. Okay, we're gonna have to act. We're gonna have to ask you to tone it down. Thank you for the follow, Jazz Dog. Appreciate it. There are only so many homeless people. Absolutely, and there should be a zero. There should be zero. As close to zero. What are we debating today? Chicken nuggets. Well, nuggies in general, because there are different types of nuggies. But apparently, Dr. Humpday was making some just absolute wild claims this morning, and you know, I felt like I needed to chime in again. Listen, this is Twitch politics, okay? This is Twitch politics. Less landlords, less homeless. I mean, yes and no. I would say that you can try to address the homelessness problem in different ways. I would almost I would advocate for a program where the government buys up all these empty houses, or the government buys up these empty apartment buildings or hotels or motels and transform them into housing, into like governmental housing, and then like just let people stay there until they can get a leg up. Provide people the tools, provide people the tools that they need. Provide healthcare, provide food, and things like that until they can until as long as they want. Single payer housing until paying for a home is over. Housing for all, Medicare for all. There you go. So like unemployment checks, but for housing. Something like, no, I don't know. I don't know if I would make that equation? Equivalency. It's just another way of going about it. And by definition, the more people have a roof over their head, then that will, I think, limit landlords. I think that will put a stopgap, if you will, a stopgap. It sounds like communism. Yeah, I know. Helping people? Can't do that. Landlords accelerate people towards homelessness. The state still needs to provide housing as a right. Yeah, I would agree with that. So exactly my point. Sea of noise. You would want some type of governmental program like Watch My 666 said, council housing, where you would have a situation where governments can do like buyback programs for all these empty houses, or I don't know, apartment buildings or motels and hotels, and just provide housing. If the state provided better housing, then landlords what I thought that competition. Oh yeah, they'll love that. Yeah, hey, there you go. You have to compete, right? Isn't that the name of the game? Anyways, we got to speed run through some of this. Interesting. Spread it forward. I did not know that they made this LTC, but yeah, we are gonna get into it. All right, folks. Really quickly. Moderna vaccine creates twice as many antibodies as Pfizer. A study into the immune response to mRNA vaccines found that Moderna's vaccine created twice as many antibodies as the Pfizer biotech vaccine. Researchers analyzed the antibody levels of Belgium healthcare workers after they received both doses of the vaccine, including 688 vaccinated with Moderna and 959 who received the Pfizer shots in a study published in the Journal for American Medical Association. Among those who had not previously been infected, Moderna recipients averaged 2,881 units per milliliter compared to the Pfizer recipients who counted 1,108 units per milliliter. Interesting. Howdy, howdy. Yikes. Spread it forward. So the TLDR of this, it seems like there is some efficacy, just a tad bit of efficacy in the Moderna vaccine versus the Pfizer vaccine, although I don't know how that's going to end up playing out when, you know, at the end of the day, like, most likely, boosters will be necessary, and both have shown to be, pretty effective. So, yikes. So just like Florida, spread it forward. The preliminary study from the Mayo Clinic emphasized that both vaccines are still highly protective against the infection and serious illness, which is just the TLDR of that, right? I just found it an interesting study. Florida Department of Education to withhold salaries for Broward, Alachua, and county boards. Schools plan to keep mask mandates. Yeah, so here we have, I guess this, like, entire segment is just going to be about how, like, authoritarian the GOP can be. So I guess we're going to go through that one. Is the Pfizer one that's now fully FDA approved? Yes, the Pfizer one is the one that's currently and the first one to be fully FDA approved. In other words, all that means is that the administrative process has finally caught up, and like they're just giving the seal of approval, right? I mean, like, it's not going to change anything. It really isn't. Like, from the beginning, these vaccines went through rigorous testing, and they didn't just, like, come out of nowhere. So yeah, it's just, at this point, it's almost like just the administrative process catching up. Criminalizing homelessness? Yikes. Uber yikes. PA is adding mask mandates for all schools? Good. Florida's Department of Education announced on Monday that it would withhold school board members' salaries in Alachua and Broward counties because of their school mask mandates. Both county school districts said on Tuesday they still plan on requiring masks because of the COVID pandemic and are exploring legal action. Look, if you want to open up and you want to have schools back and you want to try to get everything normal again, there are going to have to be guardrails in place, right? I mean, if you're a healthcare worker, if you're working with kids, if you are working with elderly folks, if you're working with elderly folks, if you're in, like, the travel industry, I mean, you're gonna have to have some type of guardrails in place, right? Jesus. Is today really Wednesday? Yes, today is Wednesday. This whole week's been a drag, I'm not gonna lie. The governor's not the legislature. In fact, they're trying to fight the governor's mandate. Well, yeah, I mean, because the governor's mandate is ridiculous. That's interesting. The leg and the governor are fighting each other. The legislature and the governor are fighting each other. I've seen school fighting the governor, but not really the legislature. Yeah. The department's announcement came after a circuit judge in Florida ruled on Friday that Republican governors Ron DeSantis' recent executive order banning school mask mandates overstepped his authority. The Florida Department of Education did not mention the ruling in its announcement. It's been a fight to protect parents' rights to make healthcare decisions for their children. Okay, fine. However, you do not get to make healthcare decisions for other people's children. You do not get to, you do not get to, you do not get to then say, well, because of my, because I have a, right to do X, Y, or Z, you do not have the right to impose yourself on others. Period. Period. Teachers never get paid enough in the first place, but they definitely don't get paid enough for this shit. True. I would love to be a teacher, notwithstanding the numerous amount of BS they have to deal with. Hey, Master Cat BDX, the Texas leg. Hold on. Come on. We live in a society. Therefore, if you want to participate in society, there are rules and guardrails necessary. Why did they come back at all if the first thing was going to be a bunch of garbage shit to vote on? Well, I mean, there's not much choice, right? Like, there's unironically not much choice that they have. Right. The only way that could have all been avoided is if people were organized as on the ground, right? Not necessarily the legislatures, but I mean, they offered some type of resistance, but it's inevitable, right? They don't have the majority, and what really needed to happen was an organization of people on the ground to stop that. We're going to fight to protect parents' rights to make healthcare decisions for their children. They know what's best for their children. What's unacceptable is politicians who have raised their right hands and pledged under the oath to uphold the Constitution but are not doing so. Listen, again, you have a right to, as a parent, to make healthcare decisions for children, for your children. You do not have a right to make healthcare decisions for other people's children. So, therefore, if your child is spreading this pandemic to other children or their teachers, you do not have that right. Very libertarian-based article quote. This one? Yeah, except they're not. Except they're not, because they're imposing themselves. They want to impose themselves on others. That's the problem here. Wait. Yeah, I guess this kind of thing should be learned from them. Some sort of strike fund around, and on-the-ground movement. Yep, exactly. Texas state legislatures are part-time. Most of them have other jobs that they can't stay away from indefinitely. Yeah, true. Are they not embarrassed? Are they not, Ethan there, are they not fucking embarrassed and or sicken that they are spreading disease like a walking plague. No, I don't think they care. Well, it's okay to shame the politicians. I just don't know how to. I just don't know the efficacy of shaming like the actual people themselves, because like I don't know. I need to be able to change. I need to be able to change their attitude, and I don't know if that's the way to do it. We can shame politicians and elected officials. That's what they're there for, right? They're there to be held accountable, right? They're there to be held accountable. These are the authorities. These are the elected officials that are supposed to be representing our interests. When they don't, then yeah, of course, you shame them. This is what I talk about, why I talk about this all the time. Like, we need this two-party system to end. Yeah, well. It's going to be a tough road. It's going to be a tough road for that one, political talks. Maybe the more we work on it, the more we work on it, maybe one day. The popular Dems should run independent. Do you think they can do that? No. I don't think they can do that. I think that they would have to win primaries. Right now, in this current system, the way it's set up, it's borderline. It's borderline. I don't want to say impossible, but politically, it's hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, people dying is a big deal. Yeah, and there are policies in place that are being perpetuated by some folks, and we should that exacerbate that tendera. So we should immediately criticize them. Right? This is all policy failures. I mean, the Dems that are in office right now, they should unchain themselves to the Dem Party. Yeah, and oh man, I don't even know how that would work. What we need to do, I think that to introduce a new dynamic into the political electoral system is ranked choice voting. I think that a way to kind of like introduce a new dynamic to the electoral system is ranked choice voting. It depends on how each state runs their primaries. Yeah. Right. Attack the policy or the system, not the people. Exactly. Right. Like these people, some of them, not all of them, but even some of them are just people who really believe this stuff. And they believe this stuff because they were told to by reputable sources. Right? I get it. I'm frustrated too. Because, like, I mean, I want to get back to normal. Well, at least, like, you know, as normal as we can get, where I'm not worried about a pandemic, right? At the very least, can we just get it together to try to address that? If we can't get it together to even overcome a pandemic, I mean, climate change is going to be a real wake-up call. Not to deify the ban, of course. Yep, I get it. I'd support ranked voting. It helps people vote honestly without throwing away their vote. Yeah, I would support that too, and it may be an avenue, even though it's not guaranteed, it may be an avenue where third-party folks can actually have a chance. A chance. It was kind of garbage for the NYC mayor. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously it has, its own problems, and every electoral system has its own problems, but you can try to make it as best as possible to try to get the most democratic outcome as possible, right? And it's also dependent on how you set up said ranked choice system. It is a step in the right, I would say, in my opinion, it is a step in the right direction. All right, folks. So yeah, King Ron DeSantis has decreed that there will be no masks, and if you defy his orders, he will have his Department of Education withhold salaries and funding from the counties. Cool, very democratic. So this is what I mean about, like, you don't get to decide for other people. You don't get to decide other people's health. Okay? This is what I mean. Yeah, so based and lovely. Super cool guy. Excellent dude. So yeah, you don't get to impose yourself on other people, right? And this is the result. Texas school system closes after 2 teachers die of COVID. A Central Texas school district closed its schools after Labor Day, Tuesday after 2 weeks after 2 teachers died last week. Freedom or death? Well, 2 people died. Yeah. 2 people died because people thought that they had the right to impose themselves on other people. Cornally Independent School District officials closed its 5 suburban Waco schools for the rest of the week after Saturday COVID-19 death of Natalia Chancellor, a 6th grade social studies teacher at Connolly Junior High, said Assistant Superintendent Jill Bottleberg. Chancellor's death came days after David McCormick, a 7th grade social studies teacher at Connolly Junior High, died of COVID. Yeah. So, yeah. One second, folks. It may not be the same as drunk driving. It may be even more deadly since it's actually contagious. Right. It's like, it's not 1-to-1, but it's kind of analogous. So it would be the same as everybody has a right to, like, I don't know, stay home and not impose yourself on others. If you want to, just have a drink by yourself and not impose yourself on others, or have a drink at the proper location, fine. You don't have the right to get in a car and hit somebody. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but I think that more or less the idea is there. My uncle is organizing a huge multi-party thing to get ranked voting on an amendment for Michigan. Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's one way. Absolutely. In Florida, we almost had some type of like jungle primary kind of deal, and I do not like that idea. I do not like that idea. But it leads me to believe that maybe Florida might be open for some type of ranked choice voting if it were proposed on a ballot initiative. The school has 51 confirmed COVID-19 cases since classes began August 18th. Yeah. This is unacceptable. And this is a policy failure. This is a policy failure from Texan Republicans, period. If you want to open up schools, there has to be some type of guardrails in place. Sorry. In more GOP authoritarianism, McCarthy threatens companies that comply with January 6 probe's own record requests. Interesting. I thought that the January 6 event wasn't that big of a deal. First of all, why would it matter? I mean, there's nothing there, right? Supposedly. So, if you're not afraid of what might come out, what's the problem, Mr. McCarthy? Congressional committees have routinely subpoenaed data from private companies, but the House minority says a future GOP majority will not forget, so they're threatening. Huh. Interesting. Are they trying to strong-arm companies by threatening them? Interesting. My kid, my kid, my choice. Your kid, my choice to make them sick. Exactly. It's not even like, it's not just that. Like, the teachers and the parents of other kids are the more, quote, at-risk folks, right? So, this is like so asinine to me. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy on Tuesday threatened to use a future GOP majority to punish companies that comply with the House's January 6 investigators, warning that a Republican majority will not forget. McCarthy called out Representative Adam Schiff, Benny Thompson, and House Speaker Pelosi for what he called attempts to strong-arm private companies to turn over individuals' private data. Except that this happens routinely? Wait, wasn't this the same, like, GOP that also, like, wanted records of X, Y, or Z? That's interesting. That's interesting. And that's pretty rich. Attempts to strong-arm private companies as he strong-arms private companies. Jesus Christ. He asserted that such a forfeiture of information will put every American with a phone or computer in the crosshairs of a surveillance state run by Democrat politicians. Newsflash, buddy? Newsflash, it already happens. Wait, does this guy... Wait, he's a lawmaker, right? Does he know that the Patriot Act exists? Wait, he's supposed to be a lawmaker, and he looks... I don't want to be, like, ageist, but he looks pretty old. He looks like he's been here quite a while. Does he know? Does he know that the Patriot Act exists? That's not an argument, my dude. And of course, he's trying to get his, wait till he finds out about the Patriot Act, buddy. True. So, was he around when that was there? Because, I mean, he should know this, right? He's a politician. The select panel, and furthermore, by the way, the investigative panel for January 6th originally was a bipartisan offer. They didn't want to take it. Okay? Remember, these are also the same people who have perpetuated the idea that it was some type of Antifa BLM stuff. Well, I mean, if you want, you can investigate and get the phone records to prove it. You can request and subpoena phone records to make your case that it actually was X, Y, or Z. They're not interested because The select panel investigating the January 6th insurrection took its first steps in obtaining phone records on Monday, asking an array of telecommunications companies to save records relevant to the attack. A request that could include records from some lawmakers. More than 30 companies, including Apple, AT&T, and Verizon, received a request for records April 1st of 2020. The select committee is investigating the violent attack on the Capitol and attempting to overturn the results of last year's election. Responding to McCarthy's threat. We've asked companies not to destroy records that may help answer questions for the American people. The committee's efforts won't be deterred by those who want to whitewash or cover up the events or obstruct our investigations. On the substance of McCarthy's complaint, congressional committees have routinely used subpoena power to obtain data from private companies, including phone records, emails, and other communications. Right. This has happened. This is routine. I don't get it, but whatever. Like, unfortunately, folks, unfortunately, this works. This works on some folks. I saw an anti-mask sign for the first time in my county, and I realized I just told everyone to stay away from that disease household. Ooh. This whole January 6th investigation would conclude with literally just phone records and emails, but they just refuse. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen the videos. I mean, there's a plethora of videos. There's a plethora of videos that we can all see. It's all public. We know what happened. I mean, we saw it. Some of us here in this very room right now. Some of us saw it live. The theater of politics. True. The theater of politics. However, I think that the theater of politics is perpetuated by the two-party system, I think. It was Antifa. I watched a girl die on the news. Yikes. Yikes. Like a live coverage? Jesus. The Democratic-led committee's investigators are looking for a fuller picture of the communications between then President Trump and members of Congress during the attack. McCarthy is among the Republicans known to have spoken with Trump on January 6. Interesting. Republicans have already slammed the investigation's interest in phone records as authoritarian, even though that's pretty routine. Overreach by Democrats, two anti-Trump Republican lawmakers, Liz Cheney and I don't like this framing. Hold on. I don't like this framing. Anti-Trump Republican lawmakers? Liz Cheney. Wait. So just to be clear, if you actually look at her record, her record is overwhelming in terms of voting along party lines and along Trump's agenda. So I wouldn't necessarily call her an anti-Trump Republican. The only reason she drew Trump's ire was because she decided to acknowledge the fact that maybe his delusional conspiracy about the election being rigged or stolen is nonsense, and she dared to say that, and that made her a, quote, anti-Trump Republican. But she is not. She's not. sit on the select panel. Most of the party voted against the committee's creation, and GOP senators filibustered a bill that would have formed an independent investigation to investigate the Capitol insurrection. Yeah, so, if you've got nothing to hide, then there should be no problems, right? You've got nothing to hide. This is all just for theater, right? You've got nothing to hide. You did nothing wrong. So what's the problem? Why so jumpy? It's weird, huh? To be honest, what really gives it away, what really gives it away is the fact that they were offered a complete, straight down the middle, bipartisan investigative committee that would have 5 Dems and 5 Republicans, both with equal subpoena power. Equal subpoena power. In other words, if they had any witnesses that they wanted to make their case, they could have subpoenaed them. They had equal subpoena power, equal amount of people, and they rejected it. Have you heard of the bill Australian government rushed through, giving the police the right to access phones and data? If you refuse, you're looking at 10 years and they don't even need a warrant? Holy yikes, Batman. Yeah, no, that's way too much. I mean, here they do kind of the same thing, right? Except they don't tell you. They don't ask for your phone. They kind of just go into it. They kind of just circumvent all that and just go through all your records if they wanted to. At least in Australia, they do it in front of your face. Okay, that was weird. Why so serious? They get a warrant to use it for criminal investigations, though? This doesn't sound like that. Oh, I see. Okay. I see. So this is like a step above. But yes, they do already have access. Yeah, I mean, like, one subpoena and it's there. You have to assume that if it's online, it's accessible. Period. If it's online, if it's in an electronic device, if it's anywhere available, it is accessible. Where they claim to catch terrorists and pedophiles, but it's worded for it to be non-specific. Yeah, it's like a step up from the Patriot Act here. Jesus Christ, Sir Yogi. Now that's way too much. That is way too far. That is way too far. Can you imagine? Yikes. Right, so I agree with this statement. Certainly they didn't want to go they didn't want this to go forward, and that's pretty strange, especially given the fact that they were offered straight down the middle, complete bipartisan, complete subpoena power, and they still rejected it. So kind of weird. All right, we need to talk about this. This one's serious. This one is serious and should unironically ring a lot of alarm bells. We didn't even get told it was a plan. They rushed it in the bill in 24 hours. Yikes. Yo, that's pretty authoritarian, dude. I'm sorry. Like, I draw the line at that. Holy yikes. A cat game for cats? Alright, well, you know what? We'll play it. Before we get too deep into it. Oh look, and it comes with its own cat ad. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so my videos keep getting like little strikes on them, so I've had to like take down and go through every single VOD on YouTube because YouTube has a more robust system. So I've just been careful. It gives me anxiety. Yeah, this should ring alarm bells. This should ring alarm bells. Because I'm like 80 to 99% sure. pretty good range there. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be used as a blueprint. If it passes and you know, it ends up not getting struck down, it's going to be used as a blueprint. That's adorable. If you have like a cat and you have an old iPad or old tablet, there you go. From what I've read, this kind of play with animals can be somewhat damaging to them. The lack of tactile reward for their efforts leads to kind of behavior changes. Interesting, I did not know that. Well, the cat is cute, I'll say that much. Like using a laser for a dog? Gotcha. Cats can get over it. I mean, my cat has a whole bunch of little, could we say Mises? Can we say Mises? My cat has Mises all over the place. Mice, yeah, that's right. But I say Mises, alright? Because there's multiples of them. A mouse and mice. Oh yeah, that's right, mice. I knew that. Listen, it's only 10 o'clock in the morning, alright? I'm still working on my cup of coffee. Which towards the middle I'm gonna have to reheat. I heard some streamers get pinned for watching YouTube videos on stream and then they go live on YouTube. I guess certain people have blocked their stuff being used. True. But YouTube has a more robust system because I was having copyright strikes for VODs that were a lot older. And YouTube just allows you to trim out those segments immediately. And Twitch doesn't. And Twitch didn't catch those previously. And I was not aware of it. I had to go through 100 and something VODs. There's a thing called the Gold Mini XLR and it can be programmed to automatically signal DMC music and mute it from your streams. Does it look like I have Go XLR money? No, I'm kidding. The mini Go XLR is pretty good. I'm just joking. Yeah, the mini Go XLR is pretty good. The Go XLR mini, I think, is not. I don't want to say a lot, but it's not exactly the most expensive piece of equipment that you could have. You could figure it out. Go XLR mini. Yeah, it's probably not that much. Oh, okay. Well. Ooh. They're not the most expensive. They're not the most expensive audio equipment out there, but I also exactly, it could be worse. It could be worse. So like half used, yeah, you could get a used one. You could get a used one. It's not bad. I'm not gonna knock it. It's not bad. Alright, folks. Texas 6-week abortion ban takes effect after Supreme Court inaction. Elections have consequences, my friends. I know it's not the end-all, be-all, but elections do have consequences. A controversial Texas law that bars abortion at 6 weeks went into effect early Wednesday after the Supreme Court and Federal Appeals Court failed to rule on pending emergency requests brought by abortion providers. The lack of judicial intervention means that the law, which is one of the most strictest in the nation, bans abortion before many people know they're pregnant, and goes into force absent further court intervention. The law allows private citizens to bring civil suits against anyone who assists a pregnant person seeking an abortion in violation of the ban. No other 6-week ban has been allowed to go into effect, even briefly. So, in other words, this is the roadmap, folks. This is the roadmap that they're going to use, since nothing was done against it. Since there's nothing, since there's nothing to prevent it, it's going to set precedent, and yeah, that's it. GG everybody. So like someone can report someone else for getting an abortion. Yeah, that's right. That's how they circumvent it. Because, and get this, it's not the government doing it. The government isn't the one that is making these, how should I say, enforcement actions. It is not the government, technically. It is your fellow neighbor. Texas is encouraging to snitch on your neighbor. Yeah, and you can be rewarded $10,000 for doing so. Y'all Kada. Why do they get to force their Jesus shit on everybody? Because they can. If you look at El Salvador, women can get 30 years in jail sentences for more than one miscarriage. What? Jesus Christ, that's... Ooh. Yeah, so these are the same folks who are out there calling, talking about, quote, freedom. These are the same people who talk about freedom. These are the same people who talk about personal responsibility. What ultimately happens to this law remains to be seen, said CNN Supreme Court analyst and University of Texas law professor Steve Vladek. But now, their inaction, the justices have let the tightest abortion restriction since Roe v. Wade to be enforced for at least some period of time. This is a call to action, folks. This is a call to action, because if this is allowed to stand, if there's no other fights, contentions about this is going to set the blueprint for the future. The cases come as the justices are poised in the upcoming rule on the constitutionality of a Mississippi law that bars abortion after 15 weeks. Under the Texas law, abortion is prohibited when a fetal heartbeat is detected, which often before a woman knows she is pregnant. There's no exception for... What? I mean, that tells you where their mindset is, right? Yikes. It is my freedom to believe in whatever flying spaghetti monster I want. True. Yeah, the only person that can be an authoritarian dictator of my life is God Almighty. Can I get an amen? Amen. Personal responsibility before conception, but we also don't want to educate you or empower you at all beforehand, so don't conceive. Yeah, and it's like, even if you do, and even if you like put yourself in this position, you can't have the personal responsibility to take care of yourself. Is there even medical exemptions, or will the mom just have to have the baby and die because of medical issues? Literally, that's the only exception. That's the only exception. There's no exception for rape or incest, although there's an exception for medical, quote, emergencies. Abortion providers asked the justices to block the ban while legal challenges played out because they argued that if it were allowed to go into effect, it would immediately and catastrophically reduce abortion access in Texas, ultimately forcing many abortion clinics to close. They argued that if the law was allowed to take effect, it would have the impact of barring care for at least 85% of abortion patients, and that means the lawsuit could be filed against a broad range of people, including a person who drives their friend to obtain an abortion, someone who provides financial assistance, and even to a member of the clergy who assists a patient. If you even look like you're helping somebody get an abortion, even if you're a driver, an Uber driver who, I guess, has no idea what you're going to do, because Planned Parenthood, and I know this is unbelievable to some folks, but Planned Parenthood does other stuff other than abortion. So what if you, like, get driven to Planned Parenthood for, like, I don't know, other medical care, and somebody, like, snitches on your Uber driver and you because they thought you were going to have an abortion? Jesus Christ, thinking Saber Cat. Yikes. Banning abortion doesn't stop it, it just takes away the option to have it professionally done. Desperate people will do it themselves and end up dead. Yeah, I agree. Jesus Christ, thinking Saber Cat. 2 hours before the ban was set to go into effect, one of the clinics, Whole Woman's Health, reported that it was providing abortions. Our waiting rooms are filled with patients. The clinic tweeting, adding that anti-abortion protesters are outside, shining lights on the parking, and we are under surveillance. Jesus Christ. The Supreme Court's failure to respond prompted a furious backlash from supporters of abortion rights just after the law went into effect. Access to almost all abortions have been cut off to millions of people, and the impact would be immediately and devastating, the ACLU said. In the novel legal strategy, the state legislature designed the law to prevent government officials from directly enforcing it. The move was meant to make it much more difficult to bring a pre-enforcement challenge because there are not the usual government officials to hold accountable in court. Instead, and this is the unbelievable part about this, the ridiculous insanity of it. Instead, the law allows private citizens anywhere in the country to bring civil lawsuits against anybody who assists a pregnant person seeking an abortion in violation of the ban. Opponents say the law is part of a new wave of laws put forth by states hostile to abortion rights and will inspire other states to follow suit. Yeah, of course. If this remains unchallenged, this is going to be the blueprint. They figured it out. It's not the government doing the enforcement, therefore, the government isn't technically taking away your right to bodily autonomy. Lawyers for Texas officials urged the justices to allow the law to go into effect, saying the clinics had not shown that they would be personally harmed by a bill that may never be enforced against them. Wait, no. There are literally people waiting outside that clinic. There are literally people shining lights into that clinic. Hey, Dacapolion. This case comes as justices who have already agreed to consider Mississippi law during their upcoming term that bars most abortions at 15 weeks. Supporters of abortion rights say the Mississippi and Texas laws are a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade, the landmark 1973 opinion legalizing abortion nationwide prior to viability, which can occur at 24 weeks of pregnancy. This is unbelievable. I really don't want to be that guy, but I can't stress enough at this point that elections have consequences. Okay? Elections have consequences. I mean, and this should bring alarm bells. This should ring alarm bells to everybody who cares about bodily autonomy and anybody who cares about women's rights. This should ring alarm bells. This should be red flags. Numero uno, red flag. Bipolarist, can you please send that to Whispers, as we have no links in chat. I might start selling seed to an Australian relation to tomatoes, which is where they got the idea from pill form. Ah, interesting. I mean, I know that there's like natural ways of doing it. I just didn't know it was like a seed. Australian relation to tomatoes. Interesting. The TLDR is that this is very important, and people should pay attention to this. People should pay attention to this. Be aware, organize, do what you need to do, spread awareness to this. Anything and everything that you can do to bring awareness to this, we should be striving to do. Interesting, Sir Yogi. Unpopular opinion, RBG should have retired during Obama. Yeah, I mean, yeah, however, although that logically should have probably been the correct play, we aren't guaranteed that, the GOP Senate wouldn't have like obstructed that to high hell, right? And just like they obstructed Merrick Garland. I mean, it would still be the correct move. I think it would have still been the correct move. I think the takeaway is that Breyer should retire while Democrats hold the White House and the Senate, so that we don't get a repeat of RBG not retiring when Obama was in office. Yeah. Good point. Good point, Kinetic Pause.
This is Tucker Carlson. Remember, Tucker is what is his argument? Is he not anti-vax? What is it? What is he? What is his claim?
He's just asking questions.
Pro-choice.
Yeah,
pro-choice.
He's a journalist, guys.
Here is a Pennsylvania Republican congressional candidate, and I think Nomi, you made this point earlier about Prégine, that the Republicans. This is now like for a lot of these people, right? There's two groups of people. There's the people who are the dupes, I guess, if you want to call them, and the dupers. And sometimes they're the same. You can be both a duper and a dupe. But I think that the Republican Party, those who want to make some money or win elections or whatnot, they're the dupers. And they have found that this stuff that the dupes are eating is going to be an effective vehicle to those goals. And here is a Pennsylvania Republican congressional candidate, Teddy Daniels, with Tucker Carlson.
This is a GOP candidate.
On Tucker Carlson's show on Monday.
Yeah, this is still America, Tucker. Okay, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask.
Yeah.
If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. That's what makes this country great.
What? Wait. Wait. Okay.
With the vaccines.
I beg to differ.
If you've had that conversation with your doctor and you feel a vaccine is the best route for you, go for it.
Pause it for 1 second. Pause it for 1 second.
Can anybody identify the problems with this logic? Can anybody identify the problem with this logic? The logic is a straw man. Yes. Furthermore, an even bigger, correct. Instead of addressing the public health, it's all about freedom, which, to my knowledge, no freedoms have been curtailed as of yet. The point being is, you do not get to dictate or impose yourself on other people, right? The whole thing about America is about how strong and unified we are, allegedly. That's what these kind of people talk about, right?
Do you think this dude actually had a conversation with his doctor about this? With his doctor.
Yeah.
He went to his doctor and I need to make an appointment. I need an hour of your time, half an hour.
Yeah,
Can we go over the can we go over the studies here?
Do most people's
Doc.
insurance cover that kind of visit? Because pretty sure most insurance only covers your annual checkup. But like that's one of the many barriers to entry for this ridiculous
Of
set
course.
of
Guys, come on.
I don't think any of these people consulted with their doctor.
He did his own research.
Mandate where you got to consult with your doctor. How about that for a mandate?
Well, I think that this is a tangent. It's really irrelevant. The reality is like, no, you do not get to impose yourself. Your actions that affect other people, you don't have that right to impose yourself on others. And furthermore, Tucker Carlson is 100% vaccinated. You can guarantee that. So I don't know how these people like still listen to him, but you can guarantee with a 99.99999% certainty that Tucker Carlson is vaccinated. Number one, they have that requirement on the Fox News studio. Number two, he was out palling around in Hungary, where they have requirements for vaccines.
The Earth was cooling down. This period of global cooling was most likely caused by volcanic eruptions, shifts in oceanic currents, and orbital flux. At the dawn of the 16th century, the Earth was cooling down. This period of global cooling was most likely caused by volcanic eruptions, shifts in oceanic currents, and orbital fluctuation. European rivers froze, and famines struck all over Asia. But in the 1600s, global temperatures dropped even further. And this time, it was caused by humans. Specifically, it was driven by the settler colonial violence that tore through the lives of millions of people indigenous to what we now call North America. The Great Dying, a genocide that killed 90% of the estimated 60.5 million indigenous peoples on the continent. The land-grabbing pursuits of American colonists killed 56 million people, with numbers possibly even higher. This genocide was so massive that it led to a decrease of global atmospheric carbon levels by 3.5 parts per million, enough to lower temperatures across the world. But this is just the start of the United States' role in changing the climate. The country has a long and dark legacy tied to climate change that continues to this day. This is the story of how the United States caused and is still causing climate change. This video was made possible by the people who support me on Patreon. Get early access to all my videos by becoming an OCC Patreon supporter. When it comes to emissions, the United States is the undisputed champ. America is the largest historical emitter. Its cumulative emissions are almost double that of China's, a fact which often gets lost in comparisons of the two countries' current emission rates. Yes, China is emitting more right now, but keep in mind that a lot of Chinese industrial pollution is driven by demand from the United States. There are also 4 times as many people using energy in China than in the United States. And because CO2 lingers in the atmosphere for up to 200 years, cumulative emissions are a much more effective tool to understand who is driving climate change, and it's undeniably the United States. Not only did the US nurture the oil industry into existence with tax credits, technological advancements, and ravenous capitalist consumption, but it's done so again with the natural gas industry in the early 2000s, helping to lock in a new form of fossil fuels for decades to come with extensive pipeline construction and government subsidies. In part, this was to quench America's insatiable thirst for fossil fuels and material goods.
Well, because yeah, I mean, that's what was the name of the game. Is the name of the game.
The US has one of the highest CO2 emissions rates per capita in the world, a rate that is almost 3 times the global average. And the United States is the biggest producer and consumer of natural gas and oil, as well as home to the second largest fleet of coal factories. In short, the United States is responsible for an overwhelming share of cumulative emissions and is still sheltering fossil fuel industries that are at the root of the climate crisis.
Well, they are a part of the problem.
Yes, the United States has now committed to a 50 to 52% reduction of carbon emissions by 2030, which is certainly ambitious. But according to Climate Action Tracker, this reduction still falls almost 11 percentage points short of the emissions cuts needed to stay below 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. US electricity consumption and overall emissions levels are dropping, but slowly. It's also the second biggest country in terms of renewable capacity, and infrastructure for clean energy does seem to be growing. But again, it's still too slow. Considering the 40+ years of relative inaction since expert climate scientists warned of the threat of global warming, it's hard to imagine the United States cutting their emissions in half over the next 9 years. Politicians like Democrat Joe Manchin, who are firmly in the pocket of big oil companies.
Joe Manchin, I talk to his office every week. He is.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. Did he mean factory that burns coal when saying coal factories? No, factories that produce coal? Wait, that's a good point. I don't know. I don't think he clarified that.
Is the kingmaker.
And the 130 members of Congress who deny or doubt that the climate crisis even exists continue to resist any of the actions necessary to reverse course, especially any climate action that might hinder a giant corporation's ability to make money by exploiting workers and natural resources. In short, before it even reaches its tentacles across the world, the American empire is responsible for far more than its fair share of emissions. And like its refusal to recognize its violent exploitation abroad, as we'll see shortly, the ruling class of the United States refuses to recognize the harm caused by our use of fossil fuels as long as burning them is quote-unquote good for the economy, as in good for shareholders and executives at major fossil fuel corporations. In order to fuel its excessive capitalist need to produce and accumulate goods, the United States has built an empire. One that stretches across the world in the form of nearly 800 military bases in 80 countries. Every year, the federal government sets aside nearly half of its discretionary budget, some $778 billion in 2020, for military spending. Some in the US view this gargantuan fighting force as a spreader of democracy and as the world's police force. And in a way, they're right. The US military does act as the police force of the world. Because, like the police, the US military ruthlessly safeguards the interests of capitalist multinationals and the state at the expense of the poor and people of color. This is best exemplified in the slew of coups, wars, and military interventions that have carved out American control of foreign oil fields. From the US-backed Iranian coup to the Carter Doctrine in the 1980s that explicitly committed the United States to defend the oil fields of the Persian Gulf against external threats, to the Gulf War, to the Iraq War, and to the 2 failed Venezuelan coups trying to topple presidents nationalizing oil reserves, the list goes on. Not only do these imperialist attacks secure and subsidize the future of oil use in a time when we need to be doing the exact opposite, but they also destabilize regions so that they're even more vulnerable to the catastrophes made more extreme by the climate crisis. Iraq has been experiencing this reality firsthand. After almost 40 years of US-fueled conflicts, the people and landscapes of Iraq are bruised. Wetlands along the Tigris and Euphrates were purposefully drained in the 1990s as a method of retaliation against communities reliant on their biodiverse ecosystems. So by 2001, 90% of Iraqi marshlands disappeared. And provisional governments that have failed to provide robust support to the Iraqi people, decimated infrastructure, and schools have all made recovering from a multi-decade war much harder. And the climate crisis has just made that recovery even harder. Increased heat in Iraq means increased dust storms and less arable lands. In FAO, arable land has decreased from 7.5 square kilometers to 3.7 square kilometers, while in Tikar it has dropped from 100 square kilometers to just 12.5 square kilometers, which means that Iraqi farmers who've tended to the land for generations are now being forced to find some other means of subsistence.
الجفاف عم هذه المناطق يعني بمسافات كبيرة جدا لذلك شوف حتى أنه صارت هجرة من الريف إلى المدينة تناقص أعداد المزارعين.
In short, adapting to climate chaos is already difficult for those on the front lines. But the US has made it even harder by selfishly scorching the region in fire and fury to protect their oil interests. So, in a cruel twist of the knife, the US not only makes adapting to climate change more difficult in the regions they exploit, but they're the very ones fueling the fires of the climate crisis. Indeed, the Department of Defense is the single largest consumer of oil in the world. It has a bigger footprint than 140 countries. But military violence isn't the only tool the United States has used in its efforts to control global markets. Alongside the United States' military exploits, US-backed sanctions are wreaking havoc across the globe. War and sanctions are the 1-2 punch of US imperialism. Together, they work to bully any dissident or leftist governments from straying far from the United States' neoliberal agenda of material and labor exploitation of the global South to fuel the luxuries of the global North. US-backed economic sanctions impact nearly 1/3 of humanity in some 30 countries, and essentially work to starve countries into submission. In a world now experiencing an increasing number of crises, this is unethical and unjust. Guns and missiles might not be present, but sanctions still kill. In Cuba, COVID-19 has been exacerbated by the tightening of economic sanctions under the Trump regime. While in Yemen, under a US-backed Saudi blockade, over 20 million people are suffering from food insecurity, with
Sir Yogi gifting a tier 1 sub to Kinetic Pause. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
50,000 children dying of starvation in 2017. This, in a country expected to experience more climate change-driven droughts and heat waves. To compound the harm, the US is reluctant to shelter refugees or migrants. So while the US continues to pour carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and heat up the planet, it's simultaneously tearing away the ability of countries on the front lines of climate chaos to deal with catastrophes. And then it's closing its eyes to the consequences. In order to truly face the climate crisis, then, we must forge an anti-imperialist agenda. At the 2009 Conference of Parties in Copenhagen, otherwise known as COP15, the world was on the brink of a preliminary form of climate agreement when Bolivia, Venezuela, Tuvalu, Sudan, and a few other countries refused to sign on.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. Although there is points here to be had, I think that when it comes specifically to climate change, that's not the only thing that we need. I think that the best thing that we can do to move the needle or to get anything relevant done to in regards to climate change, we have to first build an on-the-ground movement to sufficiently put pressure on the government to do something, anything. And the first things that we need to do is decouple ourselves off of fossil fuels. One of the things we need to do is decouple ourselves off of fossil fuels. And I think that will translate and kickstart the ball rolling for other potential climate initiatives.
Their reason? Imperialist powers like the US and the European Union rejected the notion that they should own up to their climate debt, a term that calls for reparations for the hundreds of years of emissions and colonial violence doled out by the global North onto the global South. Despite backlash, Bolivia and its comrades were right. Any effective climate agenda must incorporate the repair that comes with paying off the climate debt. The US not only must end its imperialist interventions, but do the opposite and aid countries in no-strings-attached funding of renewable and technological revolutions led by the global South as a means to escape reliance on fossil fuel.
You know what? I think that there could be... I think it's imperative that we do support... that we do support countries in the global South to move away from fossil fuels. 100%. 100%. I think that we should do everything that we can to get ourselves off fossil fuels. And yeah, I would be 100% in favor of giving or providing resources to the global South to decouple from fossil fuels. Yeah, 100%. 100%. This is fine. However, we've got to do it here so that then we can make the international argument, to then get other people on board to try to move ourselves in this direction. We got to do it here.
But repairing the harm of centuries of American imperialism doesn't stop there. It also means significant demilitarization of the US war machine while simultaneously sheltering the growing population of refugees fleeing the climate crisis. Ultimately, the United States has been at the front lines of digging the world into a deep hole of climate chaos. So in order to repair the damage it's done, the US not only needs to stop digging, but turn its resources towards building a ladder so that we might all escape the worst of climate catastrophe. Unfortunately, videos like these...
I mean, sure. Fine. I think that we do have a responsibility. I think that It does seem like agitprop, but I do think that there is responsibility to be shared. I get it, and I agree. I agree that we should own our section of responsibility, and as the U.S., we should be striving to A, make the changes that we need to do here, B, get an international coalition to do that. Extinction Rebellion in the UK have exposed what governments will do against the protests. Laws get changed and they get thrown in jail. Right. The point of the blame seems more directed at conservatives to help educate them why it's so necessary to help the nations we've wrecked. No, that's perfectly fine. We can formulate these arguments. I think in a more in a way that people who don't understand the underlying arguments being made here can listen to it without tuning out. You know what I mean? Okay, so just really quickly, please check this out. Spread It Forward posted this. We got to run. We got a speed run. Yes, this guy's.
Let people live their lives.
Wait, but shouldn't we kill people who don't get the vaccine?
Oh, my
Whoa.
God.
That's what the left wants to do.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So did you catch that? Did you catch that brilliant exchange?
A mandate.
Best route for you? Go for it. Cool. But for those that don't, that's also cool.
No, it's not.
Let people live their lives.
Wait, but shouldn't we kill people who don't get the vaccine?
Did you hear that leading question? This is insane.
My God.
Well, that's what the left wants to do.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Well, that's what the left wants to do. Yeah, I've noticed. No pushback whatsoever. Can we get a source? Can we get a source on the left on unironically wanting to kill unvaccinated people? And yeah, like we're getting gaslit in real time. Because their actions or inactions are the ones that are resulting in the situations that we're in, Dendera. It's always projection, true. Twitch just scammed me. It's September and they charged me full price instead of the 20 discounted price. Gypped. Wait, when is September? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sir Yogi. September's starts tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific time. I'm sorry you, if you didn't mean to, I can also gift a sub to balance things out. That being said, tomorrow is September, this entire month. Twitch subs and gifted subs, I believe, will be at a discounted price. So if you guys want to, or have the ability to support the channel, there is a, there are different ways to do so, and any support really does help us. And of course, please spread the word far and wide that this is the place to be for news and politics. Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays, noon Eastern Time. Most places you can't even walk around publicly naked, so why should you be able to walk around with a deadly communicable disease without sanctions, right? It's because they're not interested in that. Fifth dimension, that's not the argument that they really want to make.
No, that's what they want to do. Let them live their lives like this. I see a bunch of states right now, they're looking, well, New York City just did it, the vaccine passport. So, they're going to start enacting it if you want to go to restaurants.
Ah, yes. Anya, thank you so much for gifting the tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Sir Yogi, thank you. So we went from the left wants to kill people to like, oh yeah, it's equivalent, or it just kind of shifts and pivots to, oh yeah, vaccine passports. Yeah, that's yeah, dude, totally. Like this is wild.
Who the hell does this?
What? Any responsible government. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your support.
Seriously.
I guess if you allow people totally unlimited power and no one ever pushes back, I haven't seen a Republican in Congress fight against this. I saw the governor of South.
There are literally GOP governors who are forcing, via executive order, top-down authority, that you cannot mandate masks.
South Dakota, Kristi Noem, who's supposed to be the great conservative hope. She said yesterday, well, I'm not going to sign a bill that prevents vaccine mandates because vaccines are good.
Well, yeah, because they are. Wait. Because they are. What are you talking about? Anyways, I just needed to highlight that just ridiculousness.
And you're like, well, wait a second, Kristi Noem, what about the freedom you said you were going to defend?
Yeah.
Nope.
The government's when this whole...
Pause it for 1 second. Why?
And again, this guy left the stream. This guy is a GOP candidate. This guy's a GOP candidate. Please pay attention. He's a congressional candidate who could add to the list of the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Lauren Boeberts. Please. Please. Don't let this happen. I was gonna do this, but we're gonna have to move. We're gonna have to move into the IPCC report. Maybe if we can get some good coverage, maybe we'll do it at the end. Anyways, actually, you know what? 2 seconds. Toxic forever chemicals contaminate indoor air-wearing levels. Toxic PFAS are contaminating the air inside homes, classrooms, and stores at alarming levels. So, the original thought about these PFAS chemicals are that they were mostly from your food, and water, and stuff like non-stick pans, carpeting, stuff like that. However, there are new studies indicating that it's actually in our air, so maybe it's actually worse than we thought. And you can blame a lack of regulations and companies like DuPont for things like this that are actively affecting people's health. So this should be alarming in and of itself as well. Right? Why are you not permitted to walk down the street and defecate where you like? I know, this is such a violation of my personal freedoms. Whatever. Please check this video out. This person is a... I don't want to say small because she has like 10 times the amount of subscribers that I do. Which, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Let's catch up, yeah? But she is fantastic climate news channel. Please check them out. Alright, folks. Doomer time. It's real doomer time. Please spread it forward. Understanding climate system responses and implications for limited global warming. This section summarizes advances in our knowledge of the Earth's energy budget, including the time evolution of forcings and climate feedbacks that can lead to the climate system responses summarized in TS2. That is a failure of society. It assesses advances since AR5 and SR 1.5 in the estimation of remaining carbon budgets. The Earth system's response to carbon dioxide removal and quantification of metrics that allow comparison of relative effects of different forcing agents. The section also highlights future climate and air pollution responses due to projected changes in short-lived climate forcers. The state of understanding of climate response to potential interventions related to solar radiation modification and irreversibility, tipping points, and abrupt changes in the climate system. Radiative forcing and energy budget. Since AR5, the accumulation of energy in the Earth systems quantified by observations of warming of the ocean, atmosphere, land, and melting of ice has become established as a robust measure of the rate of global climate change on interannual to decadal timescales. Compared to changes in global surface temperature, the increase in global energy inventory exhibits less variability, and thus better indicates underlying climate trends. The global energy inventory increased by 435, 325 to 545 zettajoules, which is equal to 10 to the 21st joules. Jesus. For period 1971 to 2018, and 153, 100 to 206 zettajoules for the period of 2006 to 2018, with more than 90% accounted for by ocean warming. Put these numbers into context, 2006 to 2018 average Earth system heating is equivalent to approximately 20 times the rate of global energy consumption in 2018. And the accumulation of energy is driven by positive total anthropogenic effective radiating forcing relative to 1750. The best estimate, ERF, of 2.72 m to this, equation that we talked about the other day, has increased by 0.43 relative to that given in AR5 due to an increase of greenhouse gas ERF that is partly compensated by a more negative aerosol ERF compared to AR5. The greenhouse gas ERF has been revised due to changes in atmospheric concentrations and updates to forcing efficiencies, while the revision to aerosol ERF is due to increase in understanding of aerosol cloud interactions and is supported by improved agreement between different lines of evidence, improved quantifications of ERF, the climate system radiative response, and the observed energy increase in the Earth system for the period 1971 to 2018 demonstrated improved closure of the global energy budget, i.e. the extent to which the sum of integrated forcing and integrated radiative response equals the energy gain of the Earth system compared to AR5. High confidence. Ooh. Lack of public facilities in the US cities is a big problem. True. My answer is public health impacts. The stop horses for the same reason. Yep, TLDR, the Earth is on fire. That's right. The global energy inventory change for period 1971 to 2018 corresponds to an Earth energy imbalance of 0.57, increasing to 0.79 for the periods of 2006 to 2018. Ocean heat uptake is by far the largest contribution and accounts for 91% of the total energy change. Land warming, melting of ice, and warming of the atmosphere accounts for 5, 3, and 1% of the total change, respectively. I do hope your impact and viewer penetration grows hugely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Fifth Dimension, and I do hope so too. And you can be part of that by making sure you tell everybody and anybody. This is part of what our goal is, to bring awareness to the issues that are not getting the attention they deserve. Anya with another gifted sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. As an AR5, the global energy input, yes. More comprehensive analysis of inventory components, cross-validation of satellite and in-situ-based estimates of global energy imbalance of closure, a global sea level budget have led to a strengthened assessment relative to AR5. High confidence. As in AR5, the perturbations of Earth's top atmospheric energy budget are quantified using ERFs. Also see this table. These include any consequent adjustments to the climate system. Example from changes in atmospheric temperature, clouds, and water vapor as shown in this figure, but exclude figure TS14, but exclude any surface temperature response. Since AR5, ERFs have been estimated for a larger number of forcing agents and shown to be more closely related to temperature response than to stratospheric temperature adjusted radiative forcing. Improved quantification of ERF, the climate system radiative responses, and the observed energy increase in the Earth system for a period of 1971 to 2018 demonstrated improved closure of the global energy budget relative to AR5, combining the likely range of ERF over this period with the central estimate of radiative responses gives an expected energy gain of 340 zettajoules. Both estimates are consistent with an independent observation-based assessment of global energy increase from 284 zettajoules, very likely range expressed relative to the estimated 1850 to 1900 Earth energy imbalance. High confidence. The assessed greenhouse gas ERF over 1750 to 2019 period has increased 0.59 over AR5 estimates for 1750 to 2011. This increase includes 0.34 from increases in atmospheric concentrations of well-mixed greenhouse gases, including halogenated species since 2011, plus 0.5, plus 0.15 W from upwards revision of the radiative efficiencies, and plus 0.10 W. Is this like watts? I'm still trying to figure out, because like I'm pretty sure, as we talked about this is the equation to find out the ERF. So it's plus 0.10 from reevaluation of the ozone and stratospheric water vapor. For CO2, CH4, and N2O, and chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, there's now evidence to quantify the effect on ERF of tropospheric adjustments. The assessment ERF for a doubling of CO2 compared to 1750 levels, 3.9 to plus or minus 0.5, is larger than in AR5. For CO2, the adjustments include physiological effects on vegetation. The reactive well-mixed greenhouse gases, methane, nitrous oxide, and halocarbons, cause additional chemical adjustments to the atmosphere through changes in ozone and aerosols. Yeah, dab emote. Enjoy it. Cause additional chemical adjustments to the atmosphere through changes in ozone and aerosols. The RF due to methane emissions is 1.21, of which 0.33 is attributed to chemical adjustments mainly via ozone. These chemical adjustments also affect emission metrics. The SO2 emission changes make the dominant contribution to the ERF from aerosol cloud interactions, high confidence. Over the 1750 to 2019 period, the contribution for emitted compounds, the contributions from the emitted compounds to global surface temperature changes broadly match their contribution to ERF, high confidence. Since a peak in emissions induced SO2 ERF has already occurred recently, and since there is a delay in the full global surface temperature response owing to thermal inertia in the climate system, changes in SO2 emissions have slightly larger contributions to global surface temperatures change compared with changes in CO2 emissions relative to the respective contributions to ERF. Trees die of max extinctions of insects and flora. This is fine. This is perfectly fine. Aerosols contributed an ERF of minus 1.3 over the period of 1750 to 2014. Medium confidence, the ERF due to aerosol cloud interactions contribute most to the magnitude of the total ERF. High confidence, and is assessed to be minus 1.0. Medium confidence, with the remainder due to aerosol radiation interactions, assessed to be minus 0.3. medium confidence. There's been an increase in estimated magnitude, but a reduction in the uncertainty of the total aerosol ERF relative to AR5, supported by a combination of increased process understanding, and progress in modeling and observational analysis. Effective radiative forcing estimates from separate lines of evidence are now consistent with each other, in contrast to AR5, and support that the assessment that it's virtually certain that the total aerosol ERF is negative. Compared to AR5, the assessed magnitude of ERF FACI has increased, while ERF FARI has decreased. Ooh. Climate sensitivity and Earth system feedbacks. Since AR5, substantial quantitative progress has been made in combining new evidence of Earth's climate sensitivity with improvements in the understanding and quantification of Earth's energy imbalance. The instrumental record of global surface temperature change, paleoclimate change from proxy records, climate feedbacks and their dependence on timescale and climate state. A key advance is the broad agreement across these multiple lines of evidence supporting a best estimate of equilibrium climate sensitivity of 3 degrees Celsius, with a very likely range from 2 degrees Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius. The likely range of 2.5 to 4 degrees Celsius is narrower than the AR5 likely range of 1.5 to 4.5. Yikes. Constraints on ECS and TCR are based on 4 main lines of evidence: feedback process, understanding climate change and variability seen within the instrumental record, paleoclimate evidence, and so-called emerging constraints, whereby a relation between the observable quantity and either ECS or TCR established within an ensemble of models is combined with observations to derive a constraint on the ECS or TCR. In reports up to and including the IPCC third assessment report, ECS and TCR derived directly from ESMs were the primary line of evidence. However, since AR4, historical warming and paleoclimates provided useful additional evidence. AR6 differs from previous reports in not only directly using climate model estimates of ECS and TCR and the assessed range of climate sensitivity. It is now clear that when estimating ECS and TCR, the dependence of feedbacks on timescales in the climate must be accounted for. Climate state must be accounted for. Feedback processes are expected to become more positive overall, more amplifying of global surface temperature changes on multi-decadal timescales as the spatial pattern of surface warming evolves and global surface temperature increases, leading to an ECS that is higher than was inferred in AR5 based on warming over the instrumental record. High confidence. Historical surface temperatures change since 1870 has shown relatively little warming in key regions of positive feedbacks, including eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean and the Southern Ocean, while showing greater warming in key regions of negative feedbacks, including the Western Pacific Warm Pool. Based on process understanding, climate modeling, and paleoclimate reconstructions of past warm periods, it is expected that future warming will become enhanced over the Eastern Pacific Ocean medium confidence and Southern Ocean high confidence on centennial timescales. Jesus. This new understanding, along with updated estimates of historical temperature change, ERF, and energy imbalance, reconciles previously disparate ECS estimates. Even the most conservative models don't look good. Yep, get your sunscreen, folks. The AR6 best estimates of ECS is 3 degrees Celsius and likely range is 2.5 to 4 degrees Celsius, and its very likely range 2 to 5 degrees Celsius. There's high level of agreement among the 4 main lines of evidence listed above, and altogether is virtually certain that ECS is larger than the 1.5 degrees Celsius, but currently it's not possible to rule out ECS values above 5 degrees Celsius. Therefore, the 5 degrees Celsius upper end of the very likely range is assessed with medium confidence and the other bounds with high confidence. Based on process understanding, warming over the instrumental record, and emergent constraints, the best estimate of TCR is 1.8 degrees Celsius. The likely range is 1.4 to 2.2 degrees Celsius, and the very likely range is 1.2 to 2.4. There's a high level of agreement among the different lines of evidence, high confidence. On average, CMIP6 models have higher ECS and TCR values than CMIP5 generation of models, and have also higher mean values and wider spreads than the assessed best estimates and very likely ranges within this report. These mean that ECS and TCR values can, in some models, be traced to changes in extratropical cloud feedbacks, medium confidence. The broader ECS and TCR ranges from CMIP6 also lead the models to project a range of future warming that is wider than the assessed future warming range, which is based on multiple lines of evidence. However, some high-sensitivity CMIP6 models are less consistent with the observed recent changes in global warming and with paleoclimate proxy records than models of ECS within the very likely range. Similarly, some of the low-sensitivity models are less consistent with paleoclimate data. CMIP6 models with the highest ECS and TCR values provide insights into low-likelihood, high-impact futures, which cannot be excluded based on currently available evidence. Uncertainties regarding the values of ECS and TCR are a dominant source of uncertainty in global temperature projections over the 21st century under moderate to high GHG concentration scenarios. For scenarios that reach net zero CO2 emissions, the uncertainty in the air values of aerosol and other SLCFs contribute substantial uncertainty into projected temperature. Global ocean heat uptake is a smaller source of uncertainty in centennial warming. That's right. And yeah, we actually that actually touched on it earlier. Extremes are going to be the norm, where areas are going to be incredibly arid or dry. The droughts are going to be heavier. The heat waves are going to be longer and more pronounced. The places that get heavy rains will experience heavy flash flooding and rains that are above normal as the new normal. Winters will be more intense. The recent hurricane was incredible. Yep. Hurricane Ida would be an example. We can also, this also touched up on the intensity of tropical storms will be higher the more warming it gets. The more there is global warming, the more intense these hurricanes will be. The transient climate response to cumulative CO2 emissions is the ratio between globally average surface temperatures and increase in cumulative CO2. This report reaffirms with high confidence that the finding of the AIR5 that there is a near linear relationship between cumulative CO2 and the increase in global average temperature caused CO2 over the course of the century for global warming levels up to at least 2 degrees Celsius relative to 1850 and 1900. The TCRE falls likely in the 1 degree Celsius, 2.3 degrees Celsius per 1,000. PGC range with the best estimate of 1.5 degrees Celsius per 1,000. This is a ton, I think. Tons. This range is about 15% narrower than the 0.8 to 2.5 degrees Celsius per 1,000. Tons of carbon assessment of the AR5 because they have a better integration of evidence across chapters, in particular the assessment of TCR. Beyond this century, there's low confidence that the TCRE alone remains an accurate predictor of temperature change in scenarios of very low or net negative CO2 emissions because of uncertain Earth system feedbacks that can result in further changes in temperature or a path of dependency of warming as a function of cumulative CO2 emissions. Yeah, that's right. Dendera, it will become the new norm. Oh yeah, and yeah, we've had knowledge about this for quite some time, right? This isn't like something that just came out of nowhere. We've known this for quite some time. The combined effect of all climate feedback processes is to amplify the climate response to forcing virtually certain While major advancements in understanding of cloud processes have increased the level of confidence and decreased the uncertainty range for cloud feedback about 50% by 50% compared to AR5, clouds remain the largest contribution of overall uncertainty in climate feedback's high confidence. Uncertainties in ECS and other climate sensitivity metrics such as transient climate response and the transient climate response to cumulative CO2 emissions are the dominant source of uncertainty in global temperature projections over the 21st century under moderate to high GHG emission scenarios. CMIP6 models have higher mean values and wider spreads in ECS and TCR than the assessed. Best estimates and very likely ranges within this report, leading to models to project a range of future warming that is wider than the assessed future warming range. Okay, I think that we can get through this end here because my voice is unironically giving up. But Christian Fundies got into office and pushed their Noah's Ark philosophy. True. Earth system feedbacks can be categorized into three broad groups: physical feedbacks, biogeophysical, and biogeochemical feedbacks, and feedbacks associated with ice sheets. In previous assessments, the ECS has been associated with a distinct set of physical feedbacks: Planck response, water vapor, lapse rate, surface albedo, and cloud feedbacks. In this assessment, a more general definition of ECS is adopted whereby all biogeophysical and biogeochemical feedbacks that do not affect the atmospheric concentration of CO2 are included. These include changes in natural methane emissions, natural aerosol emissions, nitrous oxide and ozone, and vegetation, which all act on timescales of years to decades and therefore are relevant for temperature changes over the 21st century. Because the total geophysical and non-CO2 biogeochemical feedback is assessed to have a central value that is near zero, low confidence, including it does not affect the assessed ECS, but does contribute to the net feedback uncertainty. The biogeochemical feedbacks that affect the atmospheric concentration of CO2 are not included because ECS is defined as the response to sustained doubling of CO2. Moreover, the long-term feedbacks associated with ice sheets are not included in ECS owing to their long time scale adjustment. The net effect of changes in clouds in response to global warming is to amplify human-induced warming, that is, the net cloud feedback is positive high confidence. Compared to AR5, major advances in the understanding of cloud processes have increased levels of confidence and decreased uncertainty range in cloud feedback by about 50%. An assessment of the low altitude cloud feedback over the subtropical ocean, which was previously the major source of uncertainty in the net cloud feedback, is improved owing to a combined use of climate model simulations, satellite observations, and explicit simulation of clouds, altogether leading to strong evidence that this type of cloud amplifies global warming. What? The net cloud feedback is assessed to be plus 4.42, and net negative cloud feedback is very unlikely. The CMIP5 and CMIP6 ranges of cloud feedback are similar to this assessed range, with CMIP6 having a slightly more positive median cloud feedback, high confidence. The surface albedo feedback and combined water vapor lapse rate feedback are positive, with high confidence in the estimated value of each based on multiple lines of evidence, including observation models and theory. Excellent. I feel like if America just didn't become a thing, everything would be different. I don't know. Would it? Would it? Or would it just be somebody else? Have a blessed day. You have a blessed day. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for your support. I appreciate that, Anya. Alright, folks. My voice is unironically dying. And somehow it's got to get through work. Somehow that what little is left of my voice has to get through work. So we're gonna end on chill vibes. We're gonna end on some chill vibes and look for somebody to raid. Let me see here. Oh, you know what?
this.
What the heck? Oh, that's cute. That is a very fluffy kitty. That is a very fluffy kitty. Jasmine, thank you for the follow. Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to avoid DMCA like the plague. Trying to avoid DMCA. Oh, we didn't get to play this yesterday.
About a police officer, not only about an anti-vaccine police officer, but we now have also learned not only about a police officer, not only about an anti-vaccine police officer, but an anti-vaccine police captain who was taking ivermectin to combat COVID-19 has died of COVID-19. This is being reported by Yahoo News. A Georgia police officer who frequently posted anti-vaccine messages on Facebook.
No, I don't think I've rated denims
took
before.
an anti-parasitic drug instead of a vaccine has died of COVID-19. Captain Joe Manning, 57 years old. Remember, we're not talking year-olds here. Last guy, Mark Bernier, was 65.
I mean, we could rate denims.
This police captain was 57. Captain Joe Manning, 57, of the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, died on Wednesday after a short battle with the virus. Sheriff Chuck Mosley said Captain Manning was an integral part of our family, and our hearts are broken. Our love and prayers go forward to his family. Would have been nice to include a get the vaccine, keep your families safe. After the announcement of his death, Facebook posts made by Manning circulated on social media. He posted a couple of different things, summarized here by Ken Klippenstein. I am not vaccinated by choice, and that's my right. He posted that. Joe Manning, truth, it's not the government's job to protect my health. It's the government's job.
Wait, so then what is the point of the government if not to protect public health?
To protect my rights. Of course, everything is misspelled. There's no apostrophes. It's my job to protect my health. When you trade for liberty, when you trade liberty for safety, you end up losing both.
What?
Okay, folks, Wayne Feed and Seed has some liquid and paste ivermectin. Get it while supplies last. He was promoting ivermectin, and he has now died of COVID-19. This is, I still see this as a tragedy. I don't see this and go, what a great thing.
Right. This is sad. This is sad because this is somebody. This is a person, and unfortunately, because of the massive amount of misinformation and all this propaganda going around, chose, instead of getting the help that they needed, going with horse deworming in medicine, which is not what you do for COVID, and not taking preventative measures, such as a vaccine. Just another one. I mean, do we have to go every day and go over this and show, people like this? I mean, what's it gonna take for people to understand, to wake up? And I don't mean that and I don't mean that as an offense. I just mean that, please, let's have some rationality. Let's have some rationality. Please understand that your actions or inactions do affect people, right? In a roundabout way or in a direct way, right? I mean, there are stressed to the top healthcare workers who are quitting. There are hospitals who are completely full, no beds, for ICU patients. There are doctors who are worn out to the top. There are nurses who are taking back-to-back-to-back shifts because there's not enough of them. There are patients who have nothing to do with COVID-related conditions, who have nothing to do with COVID, who can't get the help that they need. Please have some, like, I don't know, just consideration. Please. Wake up, sheeple. And like I said before, if this is how we're going to handle COVID, if this is how we're handling COVID, can't imagine what we're going to do for climate change. Alright folks, on that note, I do want to thank everybody for hanging out here today. You guys are what makes this channel grow. You guys are what supports this channel. I appreciate all of you guys. All absolutely amazing support. Thank you guys. We appreciate all the subs. Thank you for all the new follows. Thank you, Anya, for the gifted subs. Thank you, Sir Yogi. I appreciate that. Jazz Dog and JSM for the new follows. I appreciate that. Thank you, Spread It Forward. As always, if you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to follow. We are here Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Saturdays for Saturdays around noon Eastern Time. I appreciate all of you guys hanging out here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTubes, do the likes and the comments and the shares and the subscriptions and the follows and all that awesome stuff. Fifth Dimension, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. And we'll be here tomorrow doing more of the IPCC report among some headlines. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love y'all and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Thanks for streaming. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate that, Kalo. Alright, folks. Someone suggested denims. So let's see. Okay, denims. Alright, folks. Hang tight, hang tight, hang tight. We are heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.